Welcome to my country-style kitchen. Today I'm cooking on my wood-burning stove and I'm doing a 4-bean chilli. So in my recipe, instead of using mince, I'm just going to use beans. It's not because I'm particularly a vegetarian or anything, it's just I'm trying to save a bit of money. What with the cost of living crisis coming, we're all going to want to save a little bit of money. So I'm using the following beans. I've got chickpeas, I've got black-eyed beans, I'm using white kidney beans instead of red kidney beans, just because I happen to have them on the shelf. It saved me popping out. And finally, butter beans. And that's going to be my base for all the protein and the goodness that the mince would ordinarily have given me. And the other ingredients I've got here, some celery, I'm going to use a leek, a bit of red pepper here, and some onion. And of course some chili powder and some chopped tomatoes. And I'm using tins on this occasion rather than the dried beans, which I have on my back wall here, which just means I've got to put them in 12 hours of soaking and then boiling up for an hour to get rid of it, especially to get rid of all the poisons and loosen them up, especially the red kidney beans. So I'm not going to bother with any of that. It's nice and easy, and these tins are really quite cheap and they're all ready to go, and that's the most important thing. But before any of that, I've got to light the wood-burning stove. Well, luckily I've got it all cleaned out and it's ready to go, so that's all nice. And I've got matches and a fire lighter to speed things up, and of course the prerequisite kindling. The reason I'm doing this right at the beginning, of course, is that it's good to get the wood-burning stove going for a little while so that it warms up, so that when you're ready to cook, it's there already. So I can get that going and get that lit and fired up, doing its thing, whilst I prepare the vegetables ready to go into the pan. So let's get this thing lit. Great, that's doing well. It won't take too long. And of course, once the kindling's burnt through, I put in some larger logs and we warm it up in the normal way. Right, so now I'm going to chop up some of this veg. I usually start with the onions and then get them, I sort of just basically get them chopped up, and then I put them into a pan, and I just sort of par cook them to loosen them up a little bit. So that's what we need to do. Already the onions have got straight into my eyes. I'm sure there's a little trick to prevent your eyes. You may be aware that this eye is actually a false eye. It's not a real eye. No, wait a minute, it's that eye. I even get confused myself, which is really weird. I'm not a professional cook, I'm not a chef, I'm not trained in anything, I'll just let you know that. So there is no sort of skill to this. This is just something I've picked up over the years, just chopping up the celery. I love a bit of celery in there because it really puts out a bit of flavour. And then now we get on with the leek. Right, time to just put a little bit more wood on the fire. The kindling's going well, that's lovely. And we'll just stick in there a little bit of blowback with the smoke there, because it's cold outside, so you've got to warm up the chimney stack. Right, so that's the leek. So there's a lot of white veg I've noticed in this, and also there's quite a bit of white beans, so it's going to be interesting. But I am going to use different powders, which hopefully will change it. I might just put a bit of turmeric in, just for a laugh. Red pepper's going in, so that'll be something nice and colourful, which we'll also just slice up until we've got it the right kind of colour, to the right size, and then it goes into the pan. That's the first stage, easy. So you might ask, is there a difference between a lovely wood burning stove and your traditional electric and gas? And of course there is subtle differences, but if you were to just try and, I don't know, list them out, they might be a bit academic. They still cook the food, obviously. It's just the process is somewhat different. This is more organic. It's heating up the metal from the primeval fire. It has its own aroma, of course. You get the wood smoke. It's a whole different method of approaching cooking in many ways, particularly with the oven, particularly in its own timing, particularly, of course, in the cleaning out afterwards and all of that. It's not for everybody. I love it. I just think it's amazing and it's wonderful. They aren't cheap, some of these things. I got this out of some inheritance money. Otherwise, I would never have been able to afford it. But I absolutely adore cooking on my wood burning stove. So that's going really well. Let's sort out a pan and open up some of those cans. Right, let's have a look. I've got two sort of pans that I like to use. One is a big flat frying pan type pan, which is a very lovely one. These are, I think, quite expensive. The other one in here is the one I'm going to use, which is more wok-like, which is sort of like that. And these are I think these are whatever they are, Pro Cook. They were very nicely brought to me by one of my lovely viewers some time ago. Right, I'm just actually going to put this on the top of the hob there just to warm it up. So, yeah, Jeff, thank you for these. Right, leave that to do that. These are the tins. Now, some tins, of course, they come with different flavourings in. And I just try to buy the basic product without any extra sauces in. You can get some, the red kidney beans, for example, with chilli sauces. I'm also using some chopped tomatoes, as I said, but I will use a chilli puree as well, just to thicken up the meal should I need it. So that's kind of on standby. Right, some of these have got these ring pulls that you can open, of course, and others are in the old-fashioned way. There we go. Right. Now I always feel a bit cheeky when I'm making any sort of cooking video because I think most people have got a good grasp of cooking and they know a lot of the procedures. But there's bound to be some people out there who basically don't do stuff themselves and perhaps a bit frightened to cook from scratch with basic ingredients, which is why I thought it'd be easier to show you what to do with tins. Some people just rely on obviously TV dinners and things like that, or packaged foods. So I'm just going to drain these out very easily. I shove them all together, which is very simple, like that. I think the lid went into that one, which we don't want. And the final one. And then once I've done that, I just give them a good rinse with the tap. Now, there's going to be a lot of this when I've finished. And the great thing is, unless I'm cooking for other people, of course, the advantage of cooking in a fairly large quantity is if you've got a freezer, you can then put them into portions and freeze them up for later on, which is what I intend to do. But then, you see, that way I don't have to have chili the next day, the day after that, and the day after that. I can have a number of ready meals now that I've made them ready to go. They just need defrosting. Right, that's all set. Let's get back to the other table. Right, I see the fire is doing very well. So what we're going to do is get the stove here on, or the pan rather, on the hot plate. This is the, on my stove, this is the hottest plate because it's above the fire. And then this is a cooler one. So sometimes I'll start cooking on here because it's hot, and then I'll move over to this one if I want a less intense heat. Now, I tend to use extra virgin olive oil. I don't believe in using vegetable oils for cooking purposes because it changes the consistency of the oil, and I understand it's not terribly healthy. So I prefer to use this. It is, of course, a little bit more expensive, but all I'm doing is I'm putting that in so we can start to, I don't know what they call it, blanch. I don't know if that's the term, but do the vegetables. So let's get those in and see how that looks, and it looks very nice, and it's a lovely colour. Grand. Right, so what we now do is just wait for that to sort itself out. Then once I'm ready, I shall add the beans, and of course, as I do that, I'll add some of this chopped tomato. I've got an extra tin standing by just in case I need a little bit more. And we'll add the spices as well. I tend to add the spices a little bit later. I just let these sort of loosen up a bit. And then if I need to add the puree. And when this dish is finished, I'll probably either put it with rice, a little bit of rice, or sometimes just enough. It's just enough on its own, perhaps with a bit of bread or pita bread or something else, or just, you know, sometimes tortillas. I tend not to eat many crisps and things. I'm not eating much bread now. Sometimes I just put it with a few potatoes, amazingly enough, or a side salad. Tonight, I think it's just going to be in bowls. The lovely Julia's coming over, so we will just have it in bowls as a kind of a simple meal. I might chuck in a bit of rice. Right, I've actually decided I will put in some of this chili puree as well, which might spice it up a little bit too much. I haven't yet tried it, which I will do in a minute. And then I will just let that all do its thing and just moisten up and absorb all the flavours as the vegetables become even more broken down and all of that. But because that's the hot plate, I move my kettle. In fact, I can put my kettle on for a brew. I will move it there onto the slightly less hot plate, the milder plate, so that that can now be on there for, I don't know, half an hour probably, maybe a bit longer. Depends on what I think. I can add, of course, more spices if I want it a bit hotter. Julia doesn't like it very hot, so what I tend to do there is, well, she prefers creme fraiche or soured cream. I often just put cheese on the top when I serve it up. But anyway, that's it. It's all done. So we'll leave that for a while and come back and give it a taste in about, I don't know, 45 minutes. And we should have a lovely 4-bean meal. Let's see what it's like. Meanwhile, I'll have a cup of tea. Come on, kettle, boil. And so, here it is. It's all ready. So we'll dish some of this up. And as I say, I could put this with rice, you could put it with all sorts of stuff. But I'm just going to have it with some cheese. Like so, sprinkle a bit of that on. Well, there it is. Now for the final taste, let's see if it's too spicy, too hot, not cooked enough, all of those things. Oh yeah. Don't tell Julia, it is actually quite spicy. She'll need quite a bit of creme fraiche. It's got a bit of a kick. I do like it spicy, but that is lovely. That is delicious. Perfection. Well, I'm very happy. It's very easy, relatively cheap. As I say, probably, I don't know how much it is. I'm just guessing now, about a £5, something like that. Maybe £6, depending on where you get your tins of stuff from, but certainly under a tenner. And looking at this lot that's in here, I've got at least another 2, if not 3 meals in there. And it depends what you put with it. Maybe, as I say, salad, rice, whatever. It's a great, easy, simple meal. I've been filming, so it's taken me longer, but you wouldn't be filming. So I reckon you could get all this done in about an hour. Piece of cake to do the main part of the cooking, depends on your setup. Cheers anyway. Thank you for watching. I've really enjoyed this. Till next time, bye-bye.